So we're going to sit cross-legged. You can sit on a block or two blocks. There should be a gap between the legs and the pelvis. I've gone to sit on a blanket for extra luxury. Yeah, like it's a magic carpet. I like that. Palms up. So, if all my years of yoga practice have really worked, then you should see this magic carpet rise up soon, and I'll float around and check your poses. So this pose is called Sukhasana. Su plus Ka plus Asana. Su is good, Ka is space, Asana is seat. So we're sitting in a good space. Breathing through your nose if you can. So just to reiterate, cross-legged with a gap between the legs and the pelvis. Most of us, if not all of us, should be sitting on one or two blocks. Two blocks requires a blanket under the shins as well. And we know that yoga props are such a central part of yoga practice and have been forever. As long as there's been yoga, there's been props. That when you represent a yogin in South Asian art, it's usually via props. So do sit on blocks. I'm not sitting on a block. Usually I do, but I just didn't today. But you can see the difference. If your knees are up like this and then your bum comes up like that, you can see how much more elevation there is in the psoas muscle, which is very, very important. Bring your hands to prayer at the heart center. It's called Atmanjali Mudra. Atmanjali means like a prayer. Anjali means prayer. Atman means to yourself. And mudra is a seal. So you're sealed in this prayer to yourself. And that doesn't mean, the ordinary sense of self, like how old you are or what job you've done or do, or, your gender or where you come from. But it's a much deeper sense of self, that there's sort of that which seems to have always been there, even though the body's changed, mind has changed, circumstances have changed. So that's the Atmanjali. Inhale, lift up from both inner groins on the inhalation. Exhale, right hand on the floor behind you, left hand crosses over both legs, and you turn. So turning without holding the breath, feeling the spine. Perhaps you'll find it useful to feel the spine laterally. In other words, just notice if you're dropping on one side of the spine while stretching the other. And perhaps with patience and kindness, we could explore balancing that up so that those lateral aspects of the spine are level. And that actually sometimes means that we turn less at first, because we're focusing on that even alignment. We turn less. And so one of the first things yoga is teaching us, of course, is honesty, which is not easy. Because, as conditioned beings, as Homo sapiens, we are conditioned even in our cells to do whatever it takes to fit in to some extent. So if we feel the paradigm is going further, achieving more, accomplishing a posture, then that might override the truth, our direct experience. So yoga pulls us back and just says, slow down and feel the spine, both sides. Then we're going to lift and turn and keep lifting and turning as we go the other direction. And breathe through the nose. Yoga superimposes what we might call a subtle body, or more accurately, an energy body. It asks the practitioner to superimpose on their physical body a sense of an energetic body. It's called a prana sharira, an energy body. And part of that energy body involves superimposing channels, left and right and central channel, which is partly what we're doing here as we look at the lateral aspects of the spine. If you're lifted on one side and collapsed on the other, just that discipline to slow down. So this is called tapas, the discipline in yoga. And out of the three yogas Patanjali taught, this is the first part of the second yoga that he taught, that of Kriya Yoga, tapas, discipline. So this is the discipline to discipline yourself, not to go with conditioned tendencies, cravings that are based on the ways in which we've been conditioned to get further, go, to show that we've accomplished more. Okay, return to center. Take a deep breath in, followed by out. And take 2, 3, 4 or more deep breaths after that. Relatively briefly, we'll stretch our legs straight out, but remember which cross of the legs you took, because we're going to take the other cross in a moment. Again, sitting on a block is advantageous, unless you've got very, very flexible hamstrings, because we have to get the pelvis upright, otherwise the central channel is not lifted. So draw the buttock flesh out and back. Hands next to your hips. Good. Head upright, chest upright. Breathe through your nose, if you can. And the first station I like to visit, and this is what I call ranging around, which is where you move left, right, forwards, backwards, purposefully to massage the hamstring muscles in the back of the legs so they become a little bit more hydrated. And as they become more hydrated, that enables the pelvis to begin to tilt, because the sitting bones can go backwards. It means the top of the front pelvis can go forwards, and we can restore our lumbar curve, our inward curve of the lumbar. And if that's not possible, even with ranging around, then we might review the amount of blocks we have and put another one in, because that's our mission. Our mission is, we don't mind how we get there, but to get the spine open, to get the central channel spacious. And to really feel, so you viscerally feel this superimposed energy body. You don't just think about it or draw pictures of it, you feel it. So ranging around, very, very useful. And there are many other stations you can add to ranging around, but ranging around is often enough. Broadening the feet is another way in which you can approach it. Okay, it's a good part. I like to stay a long time, but other people don't. So we'll come out, because I love you so much, and we're going to change the cross of our legs, bringing the other one now in front, drawing the buttock flesh out and back, and sitting up. Tall, upright, and light, back in the Sukhasana. So again, having the lumbar curve, the lumbar lordosis, is essential, not just for the health of the spinal column and the discs, but also in terms of yoga practice. So again, we can range around a little bit, moving left, moving right, moving forwards, moving backwards, but very, very purposefully, so that our purpose is lightness. And that takes honesty. And honesty is not easy, because we've been encouraged by various factors and people and institutions. We've been encouraged to not always be honest, to sort of push away our direct experience and to instead prioritize an idealistic experience on top of our real experience, an ideal one. So yoga says, no, let's go back to our roots, as the disco song says. Lift on the inhale, gently, gently. Exhale, right hand on the floor, left hand crosses over both legs. Aparigraha, meaning empty of grasping. Take deeper breaths, and again, explore with honesty the left and right sides, or the left and right channels, we can call them, of the spinal area. So is one side compressed while the other is stretched, or both feel equally prioritized? And so then any progress we make, any movement into the pose we make, is made honestly, holistically, instead of plowing on and leaving various elements of yourself behind. But it takes a lot more patience, but that's something that yoga has long since recognized. Patience, kshanti. Good job. Lift, turn, all the way around the other way. And again, this self-discipline to not invest in the things that our parents might have told us were priorities. So they've superimposed those in our, idealized those in our nervous system, or other societal constructs might have superimposed work constructs, educational constructs, and so on. And so that might, make us driven to look like we're doing more, like that T-shirt you can buy, "Look busy, Jesus is coming." I think it goes. But instead to be very, very honest and to really feel left and right sides. Jaw staying passive, breath staying deep, head in line with the spine. Nice and easy return to center. Stretch your legs out again in your dandasana. Draw the buttock out and back. So again, our mission, if we choose to accept it, is to restore our lumbar lordosis. So again, we take as many blocks as required. Hands next to the hips, spine upright, breathing through the nose. A bit of movement to begin, just to sort of soften off the tissue, just to soften off the tissue. And of course, when the tissue softens off, so does the breath, so does our various anxieties that I'm sure we all hold at least some. Because they're all interdependent. Tension in the body, tension in the breath, tension in the mind. You release one, you release all. So by releasing and massaging physical tensions in the hamstrings and the back, the breath releases. So it's very beneficial. Shoulders stay back, head stays up. Chest is lifted, lower back is lifted and light, meditatively light. Broaden your feet as well from big toe side to little toe side, not as a mechanistic action, but something more holistic. So it's visualized, felt like a current that goes across the feet. So it sort of spreads. And because there's so much to Dandasana, I think it's possible to just stay and stay and stay, but that would cause some people sorrow, lamentation, and despair. So we won't stay and stay and stay. Instead, we'll bring our bums a little forwards, perhaps. Well, we're going to dismount from blocks as well. We're going to hold our big toes, or our large tootsies, as I like to call them, as of just that moment. And once you're holding your large tootsies, then you wrap your index finger, middle finger, and thumb as far round as you can. Now, obviously, it depends partly on how big your toes are and how long your fingers are, but it would be great if you could make a proper mudra, that is a seal, really sealed in. Then we're going to lean back a little bit until our feet come off the floor. And then don't hold your breath, make sure that's flowing. It's a good way to massage your bum, which is not always easy. You can't really massage your own bum, and it's not always uncomplicated to ask others. So usually this is a good option. So moving left and right and breathing easy. If you want, you can extend a leg a little. Adds an element of excitement. Maybe another one if you want, for more excitement, if you can possibly bear it. And, play with it between two sides without holding the breath. Obviously, people who've got their legs straight and together are better people than people who don't. Is a lie. It's a complete lie. What makes you a good yogin? Just thought I'd call it out. What makes you a good yogin is that you're finding sensations that are making you release. That's what makes you an advanced yogin. Because some people are just flexible, or just because they're, perhaps they've done gymnastics or whatever as a child, but that's clearly not what yoga's about. Finding sensations, playing with sensations, and finding the ones here and now that cause release for you, particularly in your breath. Particularly in the breath. So that takes honesty again. Honesty is tricky because, we've been told all sorts of things about ourselves, not good enough, and so on and so forth. Okay, if you feel ready to come out of the pose, we're going to come out of it very, very simply by rolling up a blanket. And we're going to lay on the blanket. Seeing as it's so close to the C word, I thought we could have a little luxury for a moment. Some people don't like the C word, do they? I personally love it. I love decorations, I love tinsel, I like fairy lights, I like mince pies. I like the idea of Father Christmas coming down the chimney and bringing me gifts. Like it all. So anyway, if you don't like it, I won't mention it anymore. We'll just move on from it. But just in case you do, in case you don't as well, this is an early Christmas present. Now, I haven't got a block for my head because I don't need one, but many of us do, because this should be enough, but not too much. In the same way as Christmas pudding, only one piece is enough, 2 or 3 pieces, and you soon feel regret. So similarly, make sure you've got enough props. Again, what makes a really good yoga practitioner is their ability and knowledge in their usage of props. And, there's a very, very strong historical basis for that statement. The blanket, by the way, should be going in roughly around the shoulder blade, bottom edge, or the inferior aspect of the shoulder blades, the bottom edge of the shoulder blades, and not lower down. It shouldn't be into the lower back. The arms can stretch over the head if you wish. I think that's a nice thing to do if it is nice, and then go ahead. Keep the legs together as well. And breathe if you can through your nose. So remember, this is not in your lower back. It's around the shoulder blades or bra strap height. What matters is that your chest is open, your ribs are stretched, the muscles between the ribs, and that you're taking deep breaths. That's really important. So in yoga, I think we have to understand that we often go through a process, because when we open up and when we start to be honest, the things that we squash down sometimes come up. The important thing is when things do come up, to not grip or grasp onto them in any way, but just to acknowledge, like a passing cloud, how different clouds have various forms. Emotions, thoughts, ideas, memories can arise with various forms. And some of them are pleasant, and some of them are unpleasant, and some of them are happy, and some of them are sad. And that's all fine, what matters is not clinging to anything. So it's very, very spacious as a skill. Bring your arms forwards if you stretch them over your head. Bend your legs, and we'll see if we can't just get off this blanket. So we're going to roll over to one side. Hopefully you'll make it. Yes, some of you have made it. Others are following. People are managing to. Yes, you did it. You did it. Now we're going to come to hands and knees. Please, spreading your fingerlets so that you're ready for Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now, when you spread the palms of the hands, the muscle tendons on the palms of the hands broaden and flatten to make this connective tissue called aponeurosis that we have across the palms of the hands. It's like a webbing feeling. And I think it's really nice to really stretch that webbing tissue. We also have aponeurosis in other areas, across the abdomen, across the lower back, across the feet. So spend a bit of time both spreading the fingers, then feeling that you spread the four corners of the palms as far away from each other as you can. Then, once you've done all of that, just rocking a little side to side and just feeling the weight change, but not from a point of view of thinking, because that just leads you to doubt. And then you try to resolve doubt by going to people who seem like they don't have doubt. And 9 times out of 10, people who don't have doubt end up being sociopaths of one kind or another. So it's not a good idea. What is a good idea instead is to open up, to breathe, to feel, to have this pratyaksha. In one of the discussions at home with Kadeen the other day, I thought to myself, why does our culture get caught up in so many weird views and opinions that are clearly contrary to wisdom? And I thought, well, it's because we don't use all of the South Asian pramanas or ways of knowing that we should. We might use a reliable source, what we think of as a reliable source, but we're not using in accompanying that direct knowing. So that's called pratyaksha. So stay with direct knowing as you lift your bum. The direct knowing that is of your hands. Don't hold your breath. Direct knowing requires an empty mind. That's the trick of direct knowing. Because sometimes you think, well, I know, I've got my opinion, but that opinion is 9 times out of 10 conditioned. So we can end up in other kinds of hot water if we only go to pratyaksha, direct knowing, and we don't reference it to a reliable source. And we need those two things to talk to each other. So here, feel your palms. Feel your palms. I'm doing that by moving subtly side to side, purposefully using that movement to feel the palms. Very good. Very, very good. And on the basis of that meditation, of feeling the palms more and more deeply, that inner knowledge begins to reveal itself. It's a direct knowledge of the workings of the interdependence of the body. So not thinking about how muscles and fascia and breath and psychology and gravity are all interdependent, but feeling it. Stretch your armpits if you can. So imagine them getting longer, longer and longer and longer. Okay, excellent. Come down nice and easy into a kneeling position for which many of us are well advised to put a block between the heels and buttocks or a blanket underneath the front ankles. Both of those can really elevate the spine, but also protect the knees. So if you're not sure whether to take a block there or not, try it because it's super elevating. And of course, elevation is what we need on many, many levels if we want to bring some more hydration into the discs. Of course, that's very important in terms of what happens to the nerves. And that's very important in terms of what happens to the innervation of those nerves and therefore the way that the muscles stay online, awake, and nourished. So spine up, jaw soft. Spine includes the neck. Can you feel a sense of continuity that includes the neck? Through the spine that includes the neck. Of course, we want to make sure we don't try too hard. So stay relaxed. When you're ready, interlace your fingers and stretch your arms diagonally away from yourself, and then raise up. As you raise up, tone up. That is, draw your thumb in, raise up from the crest of the pelvis to the beginning of the ribs, and investigate. Investigate how you might move side to side, on the shins, in such ways that you can then utilize to incorporate more lower back, middle back, upper back fibers into this lifting. More lower back, upper back, middle back fibers, incorporating, finding them. Nice to keep the neck in that energetic alignment with the rest of the spine, an energetic connection with the rest of the spine. Beautiful, big, wide circle when you're ready. Good job, everyone. Rest your hands on your lap, take a deep breath that's audible. Let it be followed by 2, 3, 4 or more deep breaths that are also audible. Keep the jaw soft, keep the eyes soft, keep the brain soft. Coming calmly, if you're ready, off your block and onto your forearms, and I mean F-O-R-E rather than F-O-U-R, forearms, because you're not a Buddhist or Hindu deity. So on your two arms, on the forearms of your two arms, stretch your legs back and breathe easy. And we're going to just suspend the body like this, but we don't have to hold it static. That's the good news. We should always focus on the good news. The good news is we don't have to hold the body static. We should move. We can move left, right, forwards, backwards, so that we're not straining. We are building up tone in the abdomen. The abdominal area is one of the laziest muscular areas of the body. It has capacity, but often lacks willingness. So if you feel the abdomen protesting, just, be sort of nice to it, but don't listen too much to its opinion that it really shouldn't be doing this. It should be resting, it tells you, but no. The longer you stay, the stronger it gets, and that's all that happens. Okay, well done. Knees forwards, legs extended out in front of you. Well done, everyone. Super job. Good job. That pose and the next one are what I've called in the past mince pie earners. These earn you mince pie license to eat mince pies because, it's balance. You and me both. Hands behind their head then. This one's going out to Norma, who needs to do a lot of these. Lean back by, awfully, I'm afraid to say, 60 degrees. Raise your toes up by 30. It may cause trembling, but it earns you mince pies. Breathe into it. Calm as you can. Don't have to hold it static. Trembling is acceptable. This, of course, is the half boat. Well done. Okay, you earned quarter of a mince pie. Hug your legs. Lift your chest. Norma's thinking of ways around that. It's like, maybe I'll bake myself an enormous mince pie. And the quarter is quite a nice amount. Breathe in. So hug your legs and lift your spine and breathe through your nose if you can. Jaw soft, eyes soft. Now that pose is too difficult to do again, and yet we want to earn more mince pie vouchers. So we're going to lay on our back because we can earn mince pie vouchers in other ways. If you don't like mince pie, maybe there's something else at Christmas you like to manger on. I don't know what. Christmas log, endless after eights. I don't know. Hands behind your head and breathe easy. We're about to earn a bit more of a mince pie, or your version of whatever it is you like. Lift your feet, breathe through your nose, jaw soft. So at the moment, it's nice and calm, all the time, nice and calm. Breathing through the nose. Open the angle at the back of your knees, please, to 90 degrees, especially if you're called Louise. And then lift up your head, and then turning in this direction towards the Buddha, elbow and knee towards each other. The goal is not to bring them together, but to simply move along the trajectory that would eventually bring them together. But that's not the goal. The goal is stimulation and the release it conditions. Back to the other side. When you're ready, breathe without holding the breath. Please allow your hands to move lower or higher if you need to for more comfort for your neck. Back to the first side again. Raise the opposite leg, descend, and raise it twice. Keep the lower back close to the floor. Go back to the other side. Same thing. Raise and descend it twice. Don't hold the breath, gang. And I know what you're thinking. One more, but with 3. Yes, go to the first side again. Raise and descend that leg 3 times. Thrice. If the abdomen protests, that's normal. It's just what abdomens like to do. Back to center. If you've done the 3 on each side, or when you've done the 3, the head will come down, the feet will come down. I'm sure you'll take 2 or 3 deep breaths, and perhaps you'll have a moment of bliss now that you realize you've had a whole mince pie now, plus brandy, butter, or cream of your choice, vegan or otherwise. Don't like to judge. So we can just lay back in that wonderful thought that we've earned that wonderful voucher, which I'll write out for you later. Lift up your feet off the floor. Breathe through your nose. A homage to one of the cutest creatures on the planet, and that is, of course, the woodlouse. Lift up your head. Make sure you're not putting strain on your neck. Sometimes I like to bring my hands to the neck itself rather than the head, and you can use your hands to squeeze gently the muscles so that they feel a little less tense. Or other times you might want to bring your hands higher up, or even take them out of a clasped position and place them wherever is helpful. And that can mean one place or another, or moving between places. Now we're going to attempt to lift the pelvis. Now, I'm not saying it will lift, but just the attempt is enough to stimulate quite a lot of abdominal tone. And if possible, we might attempt, or at least in terms of trajectory, to bring the elbows and knees close to each other, maybe together. Maybe you've got really long elbows and you can reach your knees. Then we release slow and calm, head down, feet down, deep breath from every single person here, including me. Several deep breaths, several deep breaths, several deep breaths. So it's very much a surrender, a sharanagati. Very, very much a surrender, a sharanagati. And perhaps you can notice how the breath can be a form of saying yes. It's a way of saying yes. Release your hands from behind your head. Raise the leg that's furthest away from me. Interlace your fingers behind your thigh. Take a couple more deep breaths. Press your hands into your thigh and your thigh into your hands. Another way to do just that is just to simply push the heel up. Does the same thing. It pushes the thigh into the hands. And as the thigh goes into the hands gently resist. So there's a sort of checkmate. And then energy begins to show itself in your shin or your knee or your thigh. It begins to show itself. It might be just tingling at first, or buzzing, or fizzing, or a temperature change. It might feel like things are getting hotter. But as soon as that energy begins to show itself, begin to draw it up through the leg. Through the leg. Again and again, like you're combing. Like just one sweep through the leg after the other. On and on, sweeping through the leg. Wonderful. Bring that leg down when you're ready, both feet down. Let's all take 2, 3, 4, 5 deep breaths. So breath is everything. Deep, natural, honest. Let's raise up the other leg similarly. And in a similar way, we're going to interlace the fingers behind the thigh. We're not directly into the popliteal fossa, which is the space, the fossa. Fossa means space in the back of the knee. We're not directly on that. We're just a little closer to the floor on the back of the thigh. Push your heel up and notice how your thigh begins to push a little bit into your hands. And as much as the thigh pushes into the hands just resist to act as a sort of stable rebound, really. So that energy of the thigh pushing into the hands is rebounded into the front of the leg. It might just be a buzzing, it might be a fizzing, or a vibration of some kind. Or maybe you can feel parts of your thigh or knee or shin warming up a bit. The point is, when you feel any kind of register of awareness, of energy in the front thigh, you'd comb it, you draw it, you pull it, you brush it through the leg. You take sweep after sweep after sweep through the leg. So that any habitual directions that are contrary to this are gradually usurped. Please make sure you're breathing free. It's very, very, very important. Keep coming back to that breath. Okay. Wunderbar. Take a belt. I use the word wunderbar because it's probably my only German word that I know. I'm ashamed to say, I should know more. So you need a patika. If you haven't, oh, thank you. I should have bought you a patika. Look, you're getting up. I should have done that for you. Terrible. Anyway, once you've got your patika, well done for getting them. Then raise the leg furthest away from the avatar, sometimes known as Jim Tarrant, sometimes known as Jamie Tarrant by his mother and sisters. Used to be known as James Tarrant to his father and auntie. So take the belt around the foot furthest away from the said avatar and place it towards the front of the heel. Let's see if we can get a precision placement. So now precision placement isn't precise from my point of view, like you're not trying to second guess me, but it's from your point of view. So precision means that as you move your foot against the belt, or maybe belt against the foot, you're looking for points of contact that begin to focus your awareness. So it's like a little adjustment of these molecules and another adjustment of those molecules across the foot. And gradually we start to feel that it's focusing. And so the precisely right place for the belt is the place that you find through movement. And that can, for me, that takes probably, if I'm honest, 2 or 3 minutes or more. But it's a wonderful process. When you're ready, extend your other leg out along the floor. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind just seeing if you can get a bit more stretch in the inner thigh of the lower leg by moving your lower foot, experimenting with it, pushing your heel out, extending the inner groin, breathing without holding the breath. So keep breathing natural, honest, investigative. Now let's hold the patika, the belt, with one hand only, the same hand as the leg that's raised. Then imagine that there was a cutting in action, that is at the very top of the front thigh, as if someone had a belt and they were pulling that into that crease at the top of the front thigh away from your head. So that crease deepens. Imagine that crease deepening because someone's pulling a belt into that crease, deepening it, pulling it away from your head. And what will happen if you really get into that and you don't hold your breath is that the leg will begin to subtly fulcrum over that cutting in point. It's very subtle. It has nothing to do with any drives that are conditioned into us, any sort of sense of urgency. Now pull the leg closer to you and out to its own side. Breathe through the nose if you can. Breathe between the front hip points. If your foot is now in someone's mouth, it's probably time to remove it and apologize. Or if it's looking threatening, breathe easy into it. Okay. Bring your leg very, very calmly back up when you're ready. Bend the lower leg once your leg is up. Release the upper leg. Take a deep breath that's audible. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 deep breaths that are audible. Really enjoying the surrender that this encourages. It's really to evoke surrender, that the poses are there. They are there to evoke surrender. So let's calmly come into the second side. Similarly, placing the patika around the front of the heel. Not holding the breath, breathing through the nose if you can. Neck soft, jaw soft. Again, I wonder how well we can imagine now that cutting in action, like someone's got a belt at the top of your raised leg thigh, the top meaning here at the top of the thigh where it intersects with the pelvis. So right at the very top of the thigh. And they're pulling that belt into that crease that feels like it gets deeper. As a result, the leg comes towards us. It's a really rewarding and meditative action that's very much tortoise, not hare. Now, when you're ready, extend the lower leg. So as we extend, again, I wonder if we can all together see if we can move our lower leg foot in a variety of experimental ways that might help us to stretch the inner groin, the lower insertion, the lower attachment of the psoas. So breathe through your nose, see if you can get that stretch going through the inner groin of the lower leg. So that you do indeed extend the lower end of the psoas and the iliacus muscle as well. Hold the patika, the belt, with one hand only. The other hand can rest on your other thigh. Pull the foot towards your head and leg out to its own side. Take your time. Visualize and feel a melting between the front hip points. That is a melting of mind, body, breath. And it's a wise person who realizes directly that because the mind is clearly interconnected to a point of inseparability with the body, that using mind states, shifting mind states, can and does have an effect on the body. So attitudes that are conducive to release make huge amounts of difference. Attitudes of bliss, attitudes of contentment, attitudes of trust, attitudes of surrender. If you're ready, bring the leg back up in your own time. Bend the lower leg, release the upper leg, place the patika to one side. Take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 deep breaths. So what makes you a skillful yogin is your ability to be taken by the stream. It's like John Lennon paraphrasing the Tibetan Book of the Dead, relax and switch off your mind and float downstream. That's him paraphrasing the Bardo Tadol, Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's actually, it's very good advice. Relax, switch off your mind and float downstream. And there's a sort of stream that's created after poses that is inviting us into release, into what we can call the interdependent. Now, when you're ready, raise up the leg furthest away from me, dorsiplantar flex your foot, which is straightforward. You can circle your foot as well if you want. You can scrunch and unscrunch your toes. Any of these movements are very, very, very useful, particularly if we breathe into them, particularly useful. So this sort of stuff is really, really very, profoundly beneficial to be done regularly. Turn your heel in, toes out, bend at the knee, cross that leg over the other. Take a breath or two. My preference is to go above the outer ankle. There's another yoga teacher here, a cheeky man with a marvelous beard who likes to go onto his ankle directly. And because he's an honest and good man, I have to accept that may be a good option for some people, including him, the parallelogram, as I call him. Lift your foot up off the floor, plunge through your leg, interlace around your far shin. And yes, it's time for a roll about. So rolling this way, rolling that way, looking for sensations that knock you off your tracks. Release when you're ready, nice and easy. Place your foot back down on the floor. Take a deep breath or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. Really deep breaths, really surrendered exhales. It's like very natural, very easy. And when you're ready, up comes the other leg. Similarly, we get to dorsiplantar flex the foot. We get to circle or half circle. We get to scrunch up the tootsies and release them, whether you do that rapidly or slowly. This not only helps to hydrate and to melt extraneous fascia, but it also helps to increase blood supply, lymph movement around the body. Plus, it helps with the neural connections of body and mind together, which is very, very important to maintain. Once you've got that movement, turn your heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other. And similarly, lift up the foot that's on the floor. You can use a belt if you need to around the far shin or reach directly or hold the back thigh. What I would definitely recommend is rolling about, because you can find various fibers that you might not be able to find otherwise. So you know that if you make a movement that makes a sensation that's so rich that your mind just slips off the ability to think about anything at all, that's exactly what we're looking for. Well done. Nice and calm, nice and easy. Place your feet. Take a great big deep breath in, followed by a great big deep breath out, and a few more deep breaths. Lovely. Come and go. So it's just very easy, and it should be very, very easy. It's very easy. From this position, we're going to roll over. We're going to attempt to get ourselves off the floor, although we may have become extremely chillaxed. Once we've got ourselves off the floor, we're going to fold the end of our mat that's nearest that side. At home, you can fold either end of your mat. You're going to fold one end of your mat and then refold it back. So you've got a thicker surface, a triple ply surface. And you're going to need a block. If you've got a brick block, that's what we would prefer, but you can use a regular block as well, either one. And we're going to kneel on the triple ply luxury surface. Just kneeling. Okay, you've got your block ready to go. When you're ready, extend out your leg with a bent knee. Very good. It can be nice to lift your heel. When you lift your heel, you get a bit more stretch in various parts of the body, so you can use that movement, or lifting the toes, some people find that useful, to get a little bit more agreement. That is to say, more and more of the fibers, because we can be in a pose, we can make the shape, but still have many fibers not agreeing. But what we want as yoga practitioners is yoga, holism. So we want every fiber to agree, and that's the state of samadhi. When every fiber agrees, you're in samadhi, complete absorption, the goal of yoga. So play with it. You know, if I'm still finding scope to bring more fibers in, I can imagine that you also will find more scope. And I'm pretty confident I could keep finding more fibers for another 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes even. But we can keep that alive, that job going, whilst placing our block down next to our bent leg. And we're going to simply lean back to our block and raise our arm up. Not holding the breath, breathing nice and easy. How far back you lean depends on how statuesque you want to look, because the further back you lean, the more like a cool statue you look, which I think is good. Lightly tone the tummy, so drop the tummy in gently. Again, you can do things like, if you find it useful to lift the heel of the bent leg to get a bit more stretch, you can, or you can move the pelvis in any way that helps it be a meditation for you. Then from there, coming forwards and bringing your elbow on your leg, palm up, looking up, stretching up perhaps. You don't have to raise the arm. And you can either keep it straight up or straighten it over, but don't let it come onto your head. So keep your spine, including your neck, in line, in one energetic alignment. Breathe through your nose. It looks really good. Looks great. Don't hold the breath. Yeah. Lovely. Come on out. Well done. take the block, place the block ahead of your foot. And we're going to add a little bit more vavavoom, which is not Sanskrit. I got it from an advert for the Renault Clio that I saw a few years ago. The distance the block should be away from your foot is the distance that facilitates a sloping of your standing leg. So it's not upright, it's slightly sloping. That's the correct distance to have. So check that your standing leg, as it were, is slightly sloping so that the hip goes in, the groin goes up. The heel also should line up with the knee, so make sure you've got that alignment as well. And the block should cut in just where the ball of the foot meets the beginning of the arches of the foot. Not in the arches, but at that juncture between the ball of the foot and the arches. Then we're going to stretch the arms. You can use another block if you want, by the way. That can be placed down like this. Stretch the arms and then come down either to your leg or to a block, and then stretching up. Using a block is quite nice because it can stop us over stretching the hamstring tendons, but it's fine also to bring your hand onto your leg or to use the block. You can stretch it up. Most people up is more than enough. For some people, a little bit of an over as well. Definitely breathe into it one way or the other because it's a big old number. Natural, honest breath, bottom ribs forwards, breathing deep, playful, investigative, moment to moment awareness. Good job, good job. Yeah, beautiful. Come on up. Beautiful. Well done. Hopefully that made you feel like you've been slapped around the face with a wet fish. You feel, oh God, I'm really alive now. Let's move things to the other side. So similarly, reconstructing the whole complicated engineering structure. And if you remember correctly, we started kneeling or kneeling with the block next to our standing leg, the other leg extended out with a bent knee in a sort of pantomime-esque mode. Very good. Chest up, hands on the hips, give it a real sort of pantomime-esque mode for some reason. I think people in pantomimes always have their chest lifted and they're always kind of quite jaunty, aren't they? Seems to be the vibe. Now, when you're ready with the bent leg, especially if you're called Kate, bent leg, Kate, bent, yeah, that's it. Lean back, stretch up. Oh no. And breathe through your nose, jaw soft. Yeah. The main thing that makes you good at yoga is not your willingness to push your body into places where, disregarding how you actually feel about it, but your ability at yoga is down to whether or not you're able to breathe and willing to breathe into your sensations. And if you bite off more than you can chew, then you won't be able to breathe into it, and therefore you won't be doing good yoga. So take the amount that you can digest. It's a principle for both yoga and for mince pies. Take the amount you can digest. In my mind, I can digest about 5 mince pies. But the reality is not the same. Then we're going to come forwards onto our leg. Elbow down, palm up, stretch up. Oftentimes, it works very, very well to keep the arm up. You get a lot of openness, you got a lot of opportunity to breathe into it. And remember, that's what makes you a good yogin. The shapes, most of these shapes are very contemporary. They have nothing in and of themselves to do with yoga history. But the principle of surrender does. You can take the arm over as well if you want. Breathe through your nose if you wish. Good. Tone your tum. Okay. Coming out of that and into the other, which you'll need your brick block placed ahead of you. That's, again, remember that your heel lines up with your knee and that your standing leg must slope. meaning that the top of the thigh is closer to the foot than the bottom of the thigh. And the block, it cuts into your foot just at the point where the ball of the foot meets the arches, not into the arches, not in the middle of the ball of the foot, not clinging on with your toes, but a precise placement. It's all quite precise today, which that's good, isn't it? Turn your palms up, breathe through your nose, extend your lead arm, and it's coming down to a block, maybe. That's very, very useful, or to your leg. But don't forget, if you lean on your leg, that can put too much pressure through the back of the knee. So if you feel that, by all means, feel it very, very encouraged to use a block. 9 times out of 10, you're getting everything you need. And of course, yogins are people who recognize that they've got enough when they've got enough, with the arm up. It could be you want to stretch the arm over, you can if you want. Breathe, keep the chest open. Moving your hand can help the shoulder release as well. Don't look down, as they say. Look forwards or even up. Beautiful. Very nice. Come on up. Nice and easy. Phew. Bring your legs back together. Take a deep breath, because you're going to need 1 or 2 after that. Bring yourself up to standing. I should resist. I should be winding down, but I'm not quite winding down. I should be. Can't stop myself. This is actually the last Saturday class that I teach in this room in 2024. I'll be teaching next Saturday, but at Florence House Retreat Centre. And also, it's the last Saturday class in this room before this room is entirely redecorated. In fact, it's the last class, I think, at all in this room, apart from the meditation afterwards, before this room is entirely redecorated. It's quite exciting. Anyway, feet together, arms by your sides, Tadasana. So spread your toes with love, because that's what works. Breathe through your nose. Feel from toes to nose every part of the pose. Thank you. And as you move your feet, I've got to let go of how pleased I am with that now. As you move your feet, find the pelvic floor. Just nudge a little energy into the central channel, the blissful central channel, the generous, the gracious. It's called the gracious Sushumna. Means the gracious Sushumna, central channel. So by being present in the central channel viscerally, and remember, yogins do understand that we are superimposing these structures on our body until they can be felt to be real. And because the human mind is very, very good at moving through different experiences, it can imagine anything really, and actually feel what it's like. You know, this is the basis of shamanism, where shamans can feel what it's like to be a crow or a cat or a wolf or whatever it is. So we can project this central channel and feel that it becomes real. It becomes real. And as it becomes real, it becomes a visceral correlate for the whole principle of being centered, which is the only place in the universe that is non-reactive. In other words, akarmic, free of karma. Raise your arms if you're ready. Urdhva hasta, or Urdhva bahu. Urdhva hasta means hands up, Urdhva bahu means arms up. So you can call it either. Lightly tone the tummy. Look for height through investigation. Breathe through your nose. So, you can move left, you can move right. Trying to find a bit of buoyancy in the pelvic floor, a bit of lift. Not holding the breath at all. Making sure your neck is relaxed. Bend your ankles, your knees, and your hips, and lean forwards, hinge forwards from your hip joints to bring your hands down onto the floor. So your knees are bent. Back gets a good old stretch there. Breathe into that. Relax the jaw. Relax the tongue. Raise your arms up behind you. in a way that's a little similar to skiing. You can bend and extend. And then arms forwards and up. It's called the utkata, which means the squat. So you can squat lower. Some people like to squat right down, but you mustn't lift your heels up. So don't come down at the expense of your heels. Others prefer to be in the middle position, turning left or right. And then eventually we're going to bring ourselves back up to the standing in our own time. Take a big, wide circle, hands to the heart. Take a deep breath in, followed by a deep breath out, or two. Relax your toes. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Release your hands. Bring yourself down to laying down on your back and hug your legs. Because I looked at the clock and it just told me, Jim, you've got to stop. You've got to stop, Jim, it said. You've got to stop a clock. So lay on your back when you're ready. Give your legs a hug. That's what we're going to do before we come into Shavasana. So first it's the leg hug. Roll this way, roll that way. But anything you might want to prep for Shavasana. Socks are going rapidly on. And it's all about the breath. That's how you know you're doing it right. Your breath tells you. Once you've had a good hug of the legs and you feel ready to bring your feet down to the floor and to extend the legs out, then please do. Of course, we must take head support if the head tips back. It doesn't conduce to a good Shavasana to have the head tipping back at all. So do take head support if required. And also make sure you're warm and snuggly. Hands face up, not too close to the body. Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Shoulder blades scoot under the body, leaving your chest floaty. Floaty, kind of buoyant and floaty. And because what happens in the body happens in the mind, if you make your chest floaty and buoyant and lifted, then the mind becomes floaty and buoyant and lifted. So just notice that floaty, buoyant, lifted chest. Feel into the body with a little bit of movement. You move your toes, fingers, arms. Taking little stretches, natural stretches. When you're ready, bend your legs and place the soles of the feet onto the floor. Scoot the buttocks under and take an extra deep breath to release the lower back completely. And when ready, roll onto your side, facing away from the shrine side of the room with your knees drawn up and your tummy super soft. So if you draw your knees up, it makes it more cozy. So you're just laying on your side with your knees drawn up and tummy super soft. When you're ready, roll again and face towards the shrine side of the room. Again, knees drawn up, tummy super soft. Add in light and color gently. And take your own time to bring yourself up from the side. And facing towards the shrine side of the room, if you want, bring your hands to prayer. And if you agree with these following words, you can say in Sanskrit, I agree, which is to say Om at the end of the words that I say. So hands to prayer if you want. Listen to the words, and if you feel that you do agree with these words, with me afterwards, we can say Om. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thanks so much for coming through 2024. I've still got Monday classes on, Tuesday classes are on.